Good morning, everyone. My name is Stella Yangzee Sherpa, and I'm a clinical psychologist as well as a UGC NET JRF awardee. Today, we are going to focus on two of the most important characteristics of psychological testing, that is, reliability and validity. These concepts are essential because without them, no test score can be trusted or meaningfully interpreted. These are basically the cornerstone of good tests, and they help in test construction and interpretation. And by the end of the session, you will have a good, solid understanding of both. Here's what we will be covering in today's lecture. The first is reliability, its meaning and significance. Then we'll move on to the types. Then we shall explore the standard error of measurement and also the factors that influence reliability. Moving on to the next, we have validity. In validity, similarly to reliability, we'll be understanding its meaning and significance. Then we'll move on to the types, and then we'll explore validity coefficient and standard error of estimate. And finally, we will be understanding the different factors that influence validity. Okay, by end of today's lecture, you will see that reliability and validity are the twin pillars of psychological testing. Let's start with reliability. Let's understand the meaning. Reliability in simple terms refers to consistency or stability of score over time across items and across raters. Let's take an example. If we step into the bathroom and there is a weighing scale and we weigh ourselves 3 times, today, tomorrow, and day after. Today is showing 60, tomorrow is showing 55, and day after is showing 80 kilos. Is this scale reliable? I don't think so. Unless the scale shows us 60 to 61 to 62, today, tomorrow, and day after, otherwise the scale is not reliable. Okay, moving on, we need to understand why reliability is significant. Reliability is significant because it ensures trustworthy results. If a test is not consistent, we simply cannot trust the result. For example, if an aptitude test gives you a high score today but a very low score tomorrow, can we use it to guide a career path? Clearly, no. Point 2 is it reduces error and bias in psychological testing. Psychological measurement is never perfect, so error is always present. But reliability helps minimize random errors such as mood of the test taker, environmental distraction, or differences in examiner. The more reliable the test, the less these factors matter. Point 3 is it is essential for diagnosis and treatment planning in psychology, that is clinical psychology. Point 4 is it's critical for education and assessment and career choice. Point 5 is it's important in organizations. How? It gives reliable tests, and reliable tests guides us, help guide in hiring, promotion, and leadership decision. Lastly, it is crucial for research. In research, reliability is very important. It is important for credibility of findings that we have in every research. Now, coming to the next topic, it is the different types of reliability. We have to understand what are the different types of reliability. The first one is test-retest reliability. So let's understand its meaning. Test-retest reliability checks if a test gives consistent result when administered to the same group at 2 different times. If nothing significant has changed in the person, their score should remain stable. For example, if imagine giving an IQ test to students today and again after 2 weeks. If the test is reliable, the score should be very similar, aside from minor differences due to mood or fatigue. Okay, let's understand the limitation of test-retest reliability. The first limitation is practice effect. It means that people may remember items from the first test. It might improve their score in the second test artificially. Point 2 is real changes. This real change can be due to, let's take an example of anxiety. Anxiety can genuinely change over time, during a week also. So the score differences may not mean that the test is unreliable. When I say this anxiety, the anxiety level might change. It might increase or decrease due to environmental or even pharmacological factors or therapeutic factors. Okay. Point 3 is its practical use. Practicality. So retesting the same group requires time, cost, and participant cooperation. Moving on to the next type of reliability is alternate or parallel form of reliability. This method checks if two or more equivalent versions of a test produce consistent result. If a person scores similarly on both versions, the test is said to be reliable, meaning it measures the same construct itself and not just one set of items. Let's take an example of standard exams like GRE. It uses multiple forms to prevent cheating. Even though questions differ, each version is designed to be of equal difficulty. A student's score should remain consistent across different versions. Similarly, if a teacher makes two equivalent test papers for different classes, results should be comparable. All right. Okay. Now coming to the limitation. The first limitation is hard to recreate. Hard to create forms. Why? Because even the small differences in wordings and content can affect difficulty. Point 2, it's time. It requires time and cost. Okay, developing and validating multiple forms requires significant resources. Moving on to the next type of reliability is split half reliability. Okay, as the name suggests, the test is basically divided into two halves, either it's odd even items or the first half or the second half. If both the halves give similar results, the test has good internal consistency. Let's take an example for a 100-item personality questionnaire. If someone scores 40 on the first test and on the first 50 items and 42 on the next 50 items, similar consistency is found across different test takers, we can conclude that the item is reliable and it measures the same trait. Now, the advantage of this split half reliability is that it is practical and efficient. How is it practical? Because it requires only one administration. It saves time and and is cost effective compared to test retest or alternate forms. The limitations. Let's speak about the limitations. Splitting method. Okay, the first point is the splitting method. How? Splitting method basically can suppose we are doing odd even and versus first half, second half, both can yield different results. The second limitation is it is best for longer tests. It's best for longer test. Also, overall, if we divide the test into two halves, it will lower the estimate. Lower estimate. But this can be fixed by using Spearman-Brown formula. Please remember, it's called the Spearman-Brown formula. Moving on to the next type of reliability, we have interscorer reliability. Interscorer, what does it mean? Interscorer. Interscorer refers to the degree of agreement between different examiners or observers when scoring the same response or behavior. If answers, suppose if two people score the same response or interpret the same thing, do they reach to the same conclusion? Let's take an example of Rorschach in blood test. Two psychologists should code the same responses, okay? And if they are Also, we can take an example of essay exams. Different teachers should assign comparable grades to the same paper. Okay, that makes it that will suggest that the test has interscorer reliability. Okay, these are crucial for tests that has a subjective nature of responses or the observations that require judgments. All right, less relevant in objective tests like multiple choice question. Okay, the limitation is the first point itself, subjectivity. Two, because subjectivity can bring about bias and interpretation differences that will definitely affect scoring. It also requires highly trained individual. Okay, and also third is it is very difficult to assess complex behavior. Behavior itself can be very complex at times. Real life actions can be very subtle and ambiguous. Okay, how to improve this type of iterator or this validity, that is iterator validity, is to use clear scoring manual, provide training to raters, and apply statistical checks like Cohen's kappa to measure agreement. Okay, next comes the internal consistency reliability. Internal consistency reliability. Basically, it refers to how well all the items in the test measure the same construct. If a test is about anxiety, all the items should work together to reflect anxiety and not mix of unrelated factors. For example, let's take a 20 item depression scale. People who score high on, let's say, I feel sad, should also score high on related items like have lost interest in activities. Psychologists often check this with Cronbach's alpha or KR20. The values that are closer to 1 suggest stronger consistency. Why it is important? Because it ensures items are homogeneous and measures one concept. Common in personality scales, symptom checklist, attitude questionnaire. The advantage is that it needs only one test administration. It is quick and efficient, widely used in research. The limitation is very important. Very high alpha might suggest redundancy, okay, of the items. Point two is it works best for only single construct. Third is longer tests inflates consistency. Okay, now moving on to the next very important topic, that is standard error of measurement. Let's look at the the definition of standard error of measurement, shall we? The standard error of measurement means that it tells us the amount of error that is likely to be present in an individual's observed test score due to the fact that no test is perfectly reliable. In other words, it is the margin of error we expect when we interpret test scores. Okay, test scores can be influenced by factors like mood, environment, fatigue, or even random mistakes. Right? Let's take an example. Let's say a person's IQ test. I'll show you this example through this diagram. All right, let's say the IQ test. Check here, the IQ test score is 100. Okay, the red dash is the 100. All right, if the test has a standard error of plus minus 3, plus minus 3, okay, then we should not think of 100 as the exact true intelligence score. Instead, the true intelligence score likely to lie in between the range 97 and 103. This is the range. I hope this is clear. 97 to 103 is the basically the range. This range is called confidence interval. It acknowledges that small fluctuation or random errors are always present in test taking. It also prevents us from making rigid or overly precise judgments about individuals, okay, based on just one test score. Basically, it reminds us that reliability is imperfect. Even the most reliable tests are not flawless. Standard error of measurement, that is SEM, reminds us that every score has some errors, so we should never place blind confidence in test results. Point two is it guides interpretation. Standard error of measurement helps us interpret scores more realistically. For example, if two children score 100 and 102 on the IQ score and the SCM is plus minus 3, we cannot claim that one is more intelligent than the other. Point 3 is it protects against misuse. By considering SCM, we avoid rigid labeling or even categorizing individuals on the basis of a single score. It reminds us of the natural limits of testing. In short, SCM keeps us cautious, realistic, ethical in ways we interpret psychological test scores. Now, we'll move on to the next topic, that is the factors influencing reliability. All right. What are the factors that influence reliability? Okay, we'll have to understand there are different factors that can reduce or increase reliability. The first is length of a test. Okay, longer the test usually gives more reliable results because random errors cancel out across many items. For example, a 100 item questionnaire is generally more reliable than a 10 item one, but very long tests can also cause fatigue and may also lower reliability. Point 2 is clarity of instruction and items. Okay, clear instruction and unambiguous item are critical. Let's say confusing words like "do you feel bad" in a test as a test item can be interpreted in many ways, leading to inconsistency when it comes to responses. So language is very important. Point 3 is a test environment. Why? A standardized, quiet, and comfortable environment helps ensure consistent result. Noise, interruption, or distraction reduce reliability. For instance, a child tested in a very noisy room may score differently when they are assessed in a very calm, comfortable setting. Okay. Next, we have examiner's behavior. Examiner's tone, expression, or hints can unintentionally influence responses, especially in projective tests. Standardized training and administration can definitely help reduce such biases. Point 5 is the psychological state of the test taker. Fatigue, anxiety, and low motivation can obviously distort performance. For example, a tired student may underperform on an aptitude test. Ensuring test takers are rested and ready, this will definitely improve reliability. To summarize, the reliability of a test is not only shaped by statistical principles, it is also by various practical factors such as length of a test, clarity of instruction, testing environment, examiner behavior, test taker's psychological state. And also, being mindful of these elements allows psychologists, educators, researchers to create testing conditions that maximize consistency, giving us more confidence in the accuracy of test results. Now, we shall move on to another topic, that is the second topic, that is validity. We'll start with the meaning and significance. Okay, validity refers to the extent to which the test actually measures what it claims to measure. For example, an IQ test. All right, it measures intelligence. If it measures intelligence and its items measure intelligence, it is said to be valid. But if it only measures test taking skills or memorization, it lacks validity. Why is validity important? What is the significance? Validity ensures that the interpretation we make from the test scores are meaningful, accurate, and appropriate. Without validity, even the most reliable test can become useless. Okay, validity basically provides us accuracy in clinical diagnosis. If a schizophrenia scale measures anxiety instead of schizophrenia, the diagnosis will be wrong and misleading, right? It also is very effective when it comes to educational assessment, as validity ensures exam tests or what the exam is testing should test what they're supposed to. Let's say a math exam filled with language heavy questions would measure reading and comprehension ability, but not math knowledge. Also, it's important. Validity is quite important in employment and selection in organization, because it's crucial for hiring the right people. For example, a sales aptitude test must measure persuasion and communication, not just vocabulary. Invalid tests lead to poor hiring, and it can lead to costly mistakes. Validity is highly crucial when it comes to research. Why? In research, validity protects the accuracy of conclusion. If a techno-stress scale actually measures general anxiety, the entire study becomes flawed. Validity also is important in legal and forensic setting because courts rely on valid tests for custody, competency, or risk assessment. Invalid tests would wrongly label someone unfit to stand trial, impacting their legal proceedings. So we can conclude that validity is about accuracy and truthfulness. It ensures that the test is truly reflects the construct that we want to measure. Without validity, all our decision in clinical work and education and organization, or maybe in research, can be misleading. Let's move on to the types of validity. The first type of validity is content validity. It refers to how well a test represents the full range of the construct being measured. For example, a math test that only includes algebra but ignores geometry or statistic has poor content validity. Similarly, a depression scale that asks only for about mood but ignores sleep or fatigue is incomplete. Let's talk about the limitations. Basically, content validity is very subjective. There is no numerical estimate and does not, ensure any predictive power. Basically, content validity is all about if the construct is covered or not. Coming on to the next type of validity, it is criterion related validity. It has two parts, predictive and concurrent. We'll get to that. Criterion related validity refers to the degree to which scores for the tests are related to an external standard or a criterion. The criterion is usually it is already an established measure, behavior or performance, okay, that the test is expected to predict or align with. There are two types of criterion validity, like I already said, predictive and concurrent. Predictive is basically how can the test basically forecast the future performance. Example, GRE predicts college GPA, all right, or let's say UGC NET JRF predicts college performances, or if they are good researchers. All right, limitation is it requires long-term follow-up and influenced by external factors. The second type of validity under criterion validity is concurrent validity. Does the test agree with the already established measure? Example, new depression scale compared with Beck's depression inventory. The limitation here is it depends on the quality of the gold standard. Okay, basically it gives practical utility in education, employment, and clinical diagnosis. In short, criterion validity is about the real world usefulness, predicts future, and matches with the present outcome. Okay, we shall now move on to the next type of validity, that is the construct validity. Basically, the definition states that the degree to which the test truly measures the abstract concept it claims to measure, example, intelligence or anxiety. Okay, let's take an example. Suppose a social anxiety scale should correlate with other anxiety tests, right? So that means it is convergent. Okay, I did not mention it, but also construct validity has two types, that is convergent and discriminant. So if a social anxiety scale correlates with another anxiety test, that it is said to be convergent. Okay, and it should the social anxiety scale should not correlate with unrelated measures like intelligence, that is discriminant. Okay, let's take an example, or let's try to understand these two variant of construct validity. Convergent validity means strong correlation with similar construct. Divergent validity means weak correlation with unrelated construct. Okay, it's important to understand the core of psychological measurement ensures tests are scientifically sound, okay, and clinically useful and theoretically valid. The challenges of this type of validity, it needs multiple studies, factor analysis, and constant re-evaluation as theories evolve. In short, construct validity is about truthfulness in measuring the intended concept. Okay, let's recap. Content validity is basically, does it cover the construct fully? Criterion validity is basically, does it work in real life? Does it predict or does it align? Construct validity is about, does it truly measure the psychological idea it claims to measure? Now coming on to the next very important topic, it is validity coefficient and standard error of measure estimate. Validity coefficient is about the correlation, okay, a value that tells us how strong the test scores are related to some external criterion. In other words, it's the statistical index of how valid a test really is. It ranges from 0 to 1. From 0 to 1. Okay, a value close to close to 1 means that the test is doing excellent job of predicting the correlation. Okay, and a value near 0 means the test has very little predictive power. Example, suppose a company uses an aptitude test to select employees. If the correlation between the test and the actual job performance is 0.70 or 0.65, let's say, that is considered high validity coefficient. If the people who score well on the test also tend to perform well on the job, but if the correlation is only 0.20, let's say, the test is not very useful. It may not be capturing the skills that matter for the success. Okay, the higher the validity coefficient, the more confidence we can have in the test takers test practical utility. But remember, it's rare in psychology to find coefficient above 0.80 because human behavior is influenced by many factors. Like I said already, coefficient around 0.30 to 0.50 is considered respectable in social sciences. Now we'll understand standard error of estimate. Okay, what is standard error of estimate? Basically, it tells us how accurately we predict someone's performance based on performance on the criterion based on their test score. Let me repeat the definition again. Standard error of estimate tells us how accurately we can predict someone's performance on the criterion based on their test score. It is essentially the margin of error around our prediction. Think of it this way. If you predict someone's, let's say, GPA from their SAT score, the standard error of estimate tells us how far off the prediction might typically be. A small standard error of estimate means your predictions are very precise. A large standard of estimate means your predictions are more scattered and less reliable. Let's take an example. Suppose an intelligence test is used to predict school grades. If the standard error of estimate is plus minus, let's say plus minus 5, okay, and the student's predicted grade is 80, then their actual grade would likely fall from 75 to 85. Right? That range directly comes from standard error of estimate. Okay, why these two matter together? Okay, validity coefficient tells us how strongly test scores relate to performance, and standard error of estimate tells us how much error we can expect when making individual predictions. So one gives us the strength of the relationship and the other gives us the accuracy of prediction. In summary, let's say that there is we have to understand validity coefficient is correlation strength. Higher means better prediction. Standard error of estimate means prediction error margin. What is prediction error margin? It's basically lower means lower standard error of estimate means more precise prediction. Higher standard error of estimate means less precise prediction. Together, they help psychologists, educators, and employers judge whether a test is not only theoretically valid but also practically used in real world decision making. Now, let's move on to the next topic, that is the factors that influence validity. Okay, we know that validity is about accuracy, whether the test truly measures what it claims, but here's the key concept that we need to understand. Validity is not fixed. It can be influenced by multiple factors related to the test taker, and the testing situation. Let's go through each one of them one by one. The first one is the quality of test item. If the test item don't represent a construct wholly, then the validity drops. For example, a math test is mostly about history questions which lack content validity. Also, if it's confusing or culturally biased items will also reduce accuracy. Okay, well-constructed items means stronger validity. Point 2 is about appropriateness for target population. A test valid, test may be valid in one group but may not be valid in another. Okay, it must match with age, culture, language, education, or group. For example, an IQ test developed in US may not be valid in rural children in India without adaptation. Tests must be so standardized for a population being tested. Point 3 is about adequacy of the criterion being used. When validating a test, the criterion used must be reliable. For example, if the uh, you know um, UGC NET JRF score is inconsistent across universities, using it to validate an let's say a performance test weakens criterion validity. Okay, validity is not only as strong as the criterion it's compared against. Uh, I mean, sorry, validity is only as strong as the criterion it is basically compared against. Point 4 is, let's say, test takers' motivation and honesty. Okay, why is it important? It is important. Even a well designed test fails if the person is unmotivated, careless, or dishonest. For example, a job applicant may fake good on personality tests by choosing socially desirable answers. Okay, test validity depends on cooperation and honesty. The next point is testing conditions. Environment plays a huge role. Example: noise, poor lighting, unclear instruction. If there is no, a fan or air conditioning, air conditioning is not very, but at least fan. Okay, and there is unclear instruction can distort test result. Standardized conditions are crucial for fairness. Okay, so control and distraction free environment helps preserve validity. So as we see, validity is not fixed. It depends on multiple factors: the quality of the test itself, whether it matches the population, the criterion used for validation, the honesty and motivation of the test taker, and the condition under which the test has been administered. Even the most well researched tests can fail if the factors are ignored. As future psychologists, we must always be mindful of the influences when designing and selecting and interpreting tests, psychological tests. Okay, now that we have gone through both reliability and validity, let's pause and bring everything together. Number one, that reliability, the question of trust. Reliability is essentially asks, can I trust the test score? If you give tests today and repeat the test next week, it will be fairly stable. Okay, next is validity. The question is about, if do the test score actually mean what they claim to mean? If a test claims to measure intelligence, does it really measure intelligence or just memory or test taking speed? Example: imagine the same there is a clock. If it shows the real time accurately, it is valid. If it does not, it is not consistent, it is not useful. Okay, if it, all right. Now next, reliability without validity. The situation is possible but very dangerous. A test can be reliable but not valid. Let's take an example of the bathroom scale. Okay, the bathroom scale that adds 5 kg and gives the same wrong answer every day. Is it consistent? Yes. It's accurate? No. In psychological term, a personality test may always give the same score, but it does not. If it's not measuring the right trait, the results are meaningless. Point 4 is validity without reliability. This is impossible. If a test does not even produce consistent score, then how can we expect it to measure the right thing? Example: if your bathroom scale shows 60 one day, 75 the next, and 90 the next following day without any real change, the results are inconsistent. It cannot possibly be valid. So we have to understand the backbone of psychological testing is reliability and validity. A good psychological test must always have both of them. Test scores become meaningless if they don't have it. Test scores become meaningless and misdiagnosis become common. Wrong careers and or clinical decisions can definitely harm people if validity and reliability are not present. Okay, these are not only just technical concepts but also the backbone of psychological testing. So if reliability is the foundation, okay, let's say reliability is the foundation and validity is the building itself. A shaky foundation would collapse the structure, and without a building, the foundation is basically useless. Together, they make psychology a science rather than guesswork. That is why a future psychologist, such as you, must always ask two questions: can I trust these scores, and do these scores really mean what they claim to mean? Okay, coming on to the next part, we have few MCQs. We'll go through them, each one of them one by one. Okay. First question is, which of the following statement, okay, about reliability and validity is most accurate? A test must be valid to be reliable. A test must be reliable to be valid. Reliability and validity are independent of each other. Or D, reliability and validity are identical. What is the answer? It is basically B. A test must be reliable to be valid. Okay. Next we have, okay, a test of mechanical aptitude shows a strong correlation with scores on a practical engineering task. This illustrates what kind of validity? Is it construct validity? Is it content validity? Is it predictive validity? Or is it concurrent validity? A test of mechanical aptitude shows a strong correlation with scores on a practical engineering task. So it is definitely concurrent validity, because there's already established criterion that they are matching with. Okay. Next, we'll move on to two questions of reliability and we'll end the lecture class. Okay. The first question is, okay, a researcher administers an intelligence test to a group of students twice, 2 weeks apart. The correlation between two sets of score is 0.85. The test coefficient best represents what? Is it A, split half reliability? Is it B, test retest reliability? Or is it C, predictive validity? Or is it D, alternate form of reliability? Why? What is it? It is B. It is test retest reliability, because the same group of people are assessed twice, 2 weeks apart. So it is test retest. Okay. Next question is, standard error of measurement decreases when? When does standard error of measurement decreases? Is it when the test length is shortened? Is it when B, the test reliability increases? Is it C, the test items are more ambiguous? Is it D, variability among examinee decreases? The answer is B. Higher the reliability reduces, okay, it will definitely reduce the standard error of measurement. Smaller the standard error of measurement will be. Please remember this fact. High reliability, if reliability is high, SEM will be low. Okay, now coming to the end of our lecture class. All right, we learned about reliability and validity. Okay, with the two pillar or cornerstone of psychological testing. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.